the Montgomery County Hospital District. First of all, let me say I want to welcome our new board of directors. We've got several new members, one guest new before. So welcome. So I call the meeting to order. Bob, would you do the, Jason, you do the invocation, and then Bob will do the pledge.
So it is unto him who is able to do all exceedingly abundantly above all we could ask or think. Lord, we ask that you would invoke your presence upon this board meeting, Lord. Lord, move by your power and by your spirit in this room upon each one that is here, Father God. We ask that you would bless the entire Montgomery County Hospital District and all that serve and all that are employed by this agency. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. Pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Roll call. Here. Chris right here.
Elliot in here.
Okay. Special recognitions.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a few?
Yes, we do. We have quite a bit.
Good afternoon, y'all. We have a good one today for clinical excellence. The last couple have involved pictures and EKGs and complicated things. This one's a little. Go ahead.
You might introduce yourself out, because we know you, but.
Sorry. Sure. My name is Dr. Casey Patrick. I'm the medical director. We have a really excellent case that has gotten shuffled behind over the last couple months. So while it's been cold outside, this is a patient who suffered a heat stroke. It's a middle-aged gentleman on a construction site. And we were called, the patient was altered. And when we talk about heat strokes, and you hear about heat strokes in sort of popular culture, we overuse that term. True medical heat strokes are actually more rare, and they're very, very deadly, very high mortality rate. And for most of my career in medicine, the EMS treatment of heat strokes has been to bring the patient to the hospital. And then we do various things in the hospital to try to cool the patients off. What we found over the last 5 to 10 years is that cooling patients rapidly where we find them actually improves their mortality significantly. So in the summer of 2022, we changed our protocol here at Mchd to direct the paramedics to do exactly that, to cool the patients when they're in true heat stroke. And that's temperature greater than 104 or 105, wherever, depending on where you look. And the patients are obtunded, altered, unable to function. And so we put actual cooling bags on the trucks, and we instructed the paramedics to cool the patients where you find them. Most of the fire apparatus in the county have some ice on there, and so we use ice and water, and in a cooling bag, cool the patients where we find them. In this case, though, it was what makes this one excellent beyond just using the protocol as we had it written. This patient was a temperature of 109 when we found him. He couldn't communicate, he couldn't talk, he was comatose. So we put him in our cooling bag. He was flailing. We provided sedative. We put him on all of our monitoring. We got 2 IVs, but there was no ice on the scene, which most fire apparatus carry ice, but not all the time, and sometimes it's not around, and for all the reasons that make our environment austere and difficult. On this case, we didn't have any ice. But our paramedics didn't stop there. We drove rapidly to a local gas station, grabbed ice from the gas station and water, and cooled this gentleman. He had an initial temperature of 109. When we got to the hospital, he'd already dropped to 104. So we talk about heart attacks and strokes and sepsis and trauma and all the time-sensitive emergencies that we take care of, the things where we have to act. Anaphylactic shock, for example, because the outcome can be life-changing. Heat stroke is one that we probably don't think about quite as often, but it's definitely a disease that happens here in the county. And for us to recognize it, initiate the protocol, then have to troubleshoot and realize, hey, we don't have the most important piece, not a fancy piece of equipment or a device or an expensive medicine, but some ice from the gas station, and be able to reroute, cool someone, 5 degrees. We were in caring for this gentleman for right at 30 minutes. So from 109 to 104 in 30 minutes, and he was able to be discharged from the hospital back then.
Wow, that's amazing.
No, we treated him with sedative. He actually had a seizure when he arrived at the hospital, but ended up recovering well. And in these heat stroke patients, if we get them cool, they actually can do very well. So I believe this truly represents MCHD clinical excellence from my standpoint. So I'm proud to give this one away because it definitely is a little bit outside the box, and that's what our folks do out there every day. They navigate difficult situations and do the best of what they can. So let me find mine here. The in-charge on the truck that day was Hayden Randy, and the attendant was Lindsay George. I don't think, oh, Hayden's here, yes, good. All right, come on, guys. Good.
We still have a couple more.
I just have to get off that one.
All right, for Field Employee of the Month, we have 2 nominations. The first one is for Mr. Matt Howard. He was unable to be here, but I'll still read the nomination. Matt, he always goes above and beyond and is very understanding when it comes to his patients' needs. He provides excellent care and shows great compassion. Howard is a great mentor for EMT basics as well as attendant paramedics. He strives for excellence in every situation. He makes sure that all his duties are completed and stays on top of getting things done throughout the day. He shows great leadership roles and is a real role model in the industry. His compassion is not only for the patients, but also for his partners, and he is always open to talk when needed. He is a great friend and is overall the best candidate for Employee of the Month. His wife and kids would be proud of him and all that he has accomplished here at MCHD. Congratulations, Matt Howard. Well done. We had some good ones this month, so when it comes to Employee of the Month, we send out nominations. There's a link where any employee can go on and nominate somebody, and then we go through them, and then we vote to see who's going to get it. So that's how we get to this part. And this month, we have 2 for Field Employees of the Month. This one is for Peter Leday. Peter has worked here for several years, and he never seems to lose compassion for his patients. He continuously has a positive attitude towards everything he does. He continues to go above and beyond with not only his clinical care, but his work ethic. He has never gotten much recognition for any of this, which is incredibly sad since we should really be celebrating people who are consistently striving to be a great person. He is always there holding the hands of our elderly patients whenever they need someone, and he can talk to someone through the very emotional moments within the same attention, whether it's 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. Well done, Peter. Congratulations, sir.
And our
incredible support of your IT department that they provided with Magnolia Fire Department. We've encountered some challenges as we try to catch up with the rest of the departments in our county in regards to ABL, automated vehicle location, and mobile data terminal, MDT. Throughout this process, Ryan, Sean, Trainer, and Calvin of the IT department have been invaluable. Every time we faced an issue, whether it's a technical problem or a system going offline after hours, they've been incredibly responsive and dedicated to getting our truck back online quickly. Their willingness to assist, even outside of normal working hours, has been a huge help, and we're extremely grateful for their expertise and commitment. As we continue to bring Magnolia Fire Department up to speed with ABL and MDT technology, I wanted to take the opportunity to thank you and your team for the outstanding support. It has made a significant difference in our progress, and I thought it was important to let you know. So Sean Trainer, Ryan Woodard, and Calvin Hahn.
That's it.
Next up is public comment, which I have one. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
Georgette Watley. Before you read why you're coming up, I'll say public participation section. Public comment section on the agenda is designed for public participation by patrons who have signed up to address the board in accordance with the board policy. Please keep in mind that this portion of the meeting is not the appropriate means for bringing complaints for which resolution is sought. Complaints must be addressed by following the appropriate policies and administrative procedures before they can be submitted to the board of directors as an agenda item. Those who have registered to address the board will limit it to no more than 3 minutes for their presentation. Delegations of more than 5 persons must appoint 1 representative to present their views to the board. Also keep in mind that the board cannot deliberate or make decisions regarding any subject that is not on the agenda, but it can furnish factual information or cite existing policy in response to your inquiries. Something you've read a million times, but
I understand. I'll have to read real fast to stay under 3 minutes. Excuse me. I want to comment on agenda item number 7, discussion of previous allegations of privatizing hospital district services. Allegations is not the correct word to use to describe this situation. Concerns would be more appropriate. Since I believe you're going to try to attribute this to being a political ploy, I felt compelled to come today to refute that. Your groups aren't the only ones who send questionnaires to candidates. These concerns arose based on answers to one such questionnaire. We all didn't send out. This isn't some conspiracy theory or a political move by the other candidates. Concerned citizens, including employees, were calling the executive team, board members, and their friends to find out what was happening after they read the responses. To my knowledge, nobody accused anybody of doing anything. They just wanted truthful answers. This is the question that was asked on one of the questionnaires that created concerns, not accusations, and all of the respondents' answers. It said, will you maintain the current service structure or seek private contracts to provide EMS services in Montgomery County? Please explain your answer. This is an either-or question followed by a request for an explanation. One of the responses kind of droned on and on about application, interview, testing, observation, mentoring, evaluation, property uniform, blah, blah, blah. And then they ended it with, I believe that privatization would not afford our community the quality of care that they deserve and are currently receiving. This is true, but it doesn't answer the question. This person could still vote to privatize and the same members said they wouldn't, which is true based on their non-committal answer. Since your goal is to reduce taxes, eliminating EMS might be the only way to do that. Mchd taxes are about as low as they can get without privatizing EMS. The second person said, I would seek to do what's in the best interest of the organization and its employees. That doesn't answer the question and leaves the reader wondering what this person believes or will decide in the future about what's in the best interest of the organization and its employees. Third person started off and said, by reviewing all available options and choosing the most fiscally responsible one, it may be a combination of choices. Although non-committal, it certainly appears as though privatization will not be ruled out. Technically, privatization is quite possibly the most fiscally responsible option, since MCHD would have no expenses at all. Taxpayers would save money. Isn't that your goal? Another one said, and I'm sorry, I don't normally get nervous if you're doing public speaking. If a private organization can provide equitable service at a lower rate or better service at the same rate, then yes, I would look to privatize contracts. Competition typically results in the best company, harder workers, and better service. I am for all of these things. That is a solid yes to privatization. Other than that one, which obviously supports privatization, the others are non-committal answers. And since you all promised to reduce taxes, I don't know how you can significantly reduce taxes and maintain the quality of services we have. Outsourcing EMS would definitely allow you to reduce taxes, but at what cost to human lives? You're going to have to choose between saving the taxpayer $1 or $2 or saving lives. The other candidates, who by the way were not elected, one responded, the ideal would be to maintain all EMS under the current structure, but if outside contracts were used or utilized to bridge a staffing gap, they should be very limited and for the shortest time possible. The other 4 were emphatically opposed to privatization and justified their responses. There was no question where they stood on the issue. And one other item, if I have time, I'm
Are
opposed.
you keeping the time?
Yeah, she still got a little bit more time.
Okay. I'm opposed to having meetings here. That topic has come up time and time again. Every time it's been voted down. I know we've got a lot of new board members. There are many, many places y'all can go to have meetings. Community centers, schools, churches, etc. This is like it's a first responder company. And you can't go have meetings at the sheriff's office or the jail or Conroe City Hall, well, maybe City Hall, but not Conroe Police Department. Why here? There's so many other options. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, moving to item number 7. Mr. Bagley, thank you, and Mr. Shirley have a statement.
Real quickly, I just wanted, we asked that this be put on the agenda. During the campaign, there was many comments that some of the new folks that were running for the board were in favor of privatization of MCHD. I can tell you from my point of view, and having long discussions with all these new folks on the board, we never had that intention. We don't have that intention. We will not do that. That's never been anything that we've made some comments about taking a look at private situations for small contracts. For example, taking a real estate property and having it modified or whatever. That's all we were talking about. But we weren't talking about taking the whole association private. So we just wanted to make it clear. I'm sorry if there was a misunderstanding, but we never ever said that, and we don't believe in it. That's all I have to say.
I didn't realize that it was an issue until during the elections. An employee, which I did not know at the time, was an employee, asked me if I knew it's on.
I need to make it closer to you. So I can hear you.
Is that better?
Yes.
So the question was asked if why there was a discussion about privatizing the hospital district, and I just went into detail and told the individual, which I again did not know was an employee at the time, why that was not going to take place, why I would not do it, and later found out that she works here for us. So, but I found out through her that a lot of employees were upset about it and were concerned about their jobs and about losing their jobs, and it was never on the table. It was never a thought. My 12 years here never once came up to thinking about doing anything like that. That was it.
So I would just like to chime in and say I appreciate that clarifying, and I will take everyone at their word that that is not their plan to privatize. As a 52-year emergency responder, starting back in 1973. I've worked with private providers, I've worked with public providers. I'm a big fire-based EMS guy coming from the state of Michigan. And when I took over Salt County Fire in 2009, there was a lot of my folks that talked about going ALS and running our own advanced life support service. And I did that, one of my fire departments in Michigan. And I said, there would be no benefit. There would be an extreme amount of cost to do that, and there would be no increase in care. I've seen services in many places. I think the Mchd does the best patient care that I've ever seen. All it takes is to look at what Dr. Dixon in the past and Dr. Patrick now, and these cases that they present. When you have an ER physician that comes in and talks about platitudes of your people and how they saved a 37-year-old person's life, while yes, private enterprise sometimes is cheaper, you obviously get what you pay for. And I will be the vote against any attempt to privatize. Thank you.
And let me just say too, I want to thank you guys for clarifying that. You know, there was a lot of concern. Primarily, I'm concerned for those people out there. They were concerned, and rightly so. So I'm glad that's been clarified. And, you know, we'll move forward. Everybody will take you at the word that was just a misunderstanding at best. So, and we'll move on. Is that fair enough from everybody? Okay. All right. Moving on, Mr. Shirley, we have item number 8, investment report.
Yes, so we do the presentation of the investment report.
Yes, sir. So Jamie Hobbs with Value Consulting is here to present the investment report.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to come speak with the board. We'll go through the December report, and we'll come and present this to the board each quarter. So as of December 31st, 2024, the value in the portfolio was $45,100,184. Quarter over quarter, that was a decrease of about $3 million. The average quarterly yield was 4.47%. And then the quarterly interest earnings was approximately $516,000. Quick economic overview. At December quarter end, we had just come through 100 basis points drops by the Federal Open Market Committee. They reduced the Fed funds target range to a year-end number of 4.25 to 4.5%. That was the first rate drops that we had seen in almost 18 months to 2 years. So this was the first time for that happening since we had the historic raise in rates. Since December, we've had a new president inaugurated. We've had a ceasefire in the Middle East. We've had unemployment numbers that are showing positive numbers of unemployment and labor rates. And then we had a slight tick down in the core CPI number, which is a consumer price index number. That's watched greatly by the Federal Open Market Committee to see how they'd like to move forward with increasing, decreasing rates. So with all that to be said, the market is anticipating that we're in a very much of a wait and see mode. There's a lot of things that are going to be impacting economic indicators, economic numbers as we move forward. New policies and confirmations with the different department heads. We have continued global economic issues. There's a decline just globally in the economic situation. And then we still have conflicts in Ukraine and Russia. So all of this to be said is that right now the anticipation by the market is that we may see one interest rate drop sometime in the June-July time period. That's what they're anticipating right now. That's kind of floated back and forth at that time period. And then through the remainder of the year, it's iffy on if there will be one more. So we may see very little action this year as far as interest rates go.
I thought I heard the other day the Fed was backing off their dropping the rate.
That's what we're seeing. Like I said, it's right now. It was earlier since December. They were thinking maybe March, April, and now it's pushed back to June, July, and even that's it's iffy. So we watch that, monitor that, and then come back and provide reports back to the board and the team here. In addition to that, the state legislature is in session, so we'll monitor that for any changes to the Public Funds Investment Act, which guides the board on how the investments are done. Right now, there has been a bill presented about local government investment pools. And basically, the gist of it is that this congressperson would like for there to be just pools monitored and maintained by the Comptroller's Office and by the Texas Treasury Safekeeping Trust Company. So any pools that are being managed by financial firms would be not allowed, and that's how it's written right now. Don't know really where this came from. There's no history of problems with this senator and, with the pools or anything. So we'll just continue to monitor that and see how that plays out as we're moving forward.
We've also discussed the Treasury yield curve has
Yes.
finally changed. So
Yes, sir, I was just about to get to that. In this top right corner, the Treasury yield curve. In a normal market, in a normal yield curve, we'll start at the bottom left at the overnight rates and we'll move up and to the right. That's a normal yield curve. That's when, the economic indicators are all in a line and we're in a normal environment. Since we had the historic rise in the rates, we have been in what's called an inverted yield curve. And what that means is basically that your short-term rates, your overnight rates are higher than your longer-term investments, your 5, 10, 30-year rates. And so you'll see that if you look at the green and the blue lines that are there, you'll see the inversion. Starts at the top, moves down to the left. Since we had the rate decreases September through the end of the year, you'll see with the red dotted line for December, you'll see just an ever so slight check mark, if you will. Still very flat, but kind of a check mark. And so we're still seeing the overnight rates a little higher, but then we come down and we start moving back up and to the right. So we're starting to see some correction, not a great deal of correction, but at least a movement in the right direction as far as moving back towards a more normal Treasury yield curve. This next page is just a listing of the investment holdings at the end of December. Everything above the blank line are your cash and cash equivalents, your liquid investment funds that you have. You have your banking relationship with Woodforest National Bank, a checking account and a money market account. You have another money market through Next Bank, and then you have your two pools, TexPool and Techstar. Just as a side note, TexPool is run by the state comptroller's office. So if something were to come with that state bill, that one does satisfy, at least from the initial writings of the proposed bill. Everything below the blank line are your CDs that have been laddered out. We have a couple of different relationships with those. Just kind of as a reason for the investments that are there, CDs of late have been outperforming securities out to about 12 months. Once we get past 12 months, we would need to move more towards securities. Every once in a while, we'll have a bank that will jump in looking to fill certain spots that will provide great rates. But as a general rule, CDs have been outperforming securities out to that point. This next page, this is a report that's required by the Public Funds Investment Act. It's just a comparison quarter over quarter of your account balances. It's a book and market value comparison. Right now, since you do not have securities, those numbers are the same. If and when securities were added, we would have some differences based on that market value adjustment. But what you'll see are increases and decreases out of each individual investment throughout the quarter. You'll also see maturities of CDs. We had one CD that matured in October. It was reinvested out through November of 2025 with a new bank. And so we'll continue to look at investing funds where it's advantageous. Right now, still the overnight rates are still very good. So you have been you had good results with the cashes in pools and different things. So that has definitely benefited your yield.
Brett, do you mind just real quick for our new board members, if this is TMI, just say so, how our funds are secured that are on deposit?
Sure.
So I understand how public funds are done.
So our Jamie's mentioned the Public Funds Investment Act several times. And the first rule is don't lose principal. I mean, it's taxpayer money, don't lose principal. And so we're not a typical investor that really is chasing return. We want as good a returns as we can, but with those investments allowed us by the Public Funds Investment Act, so safe. With regard to our primary depository is Wood Forest National Bank, and we're just like any other account holder. We've got FDIC for $250,000. We've got a lot more money in there than that. And so what we do is we have a letter of credit with the Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas up to $25 million. And so what our contract says with Wood Forest is they've got to maintain collateral at 105% of our balance. And so that allows us to be very safe. We watch this throughout the year. As you extend your tenure here, you'll see how our cash cycles. We're approaching a really high point, right? Because this is when tax revenue is coming in. And you'll see, positive income statements. But as we get out past March, April, tax revenue is going to drop off. That revenue is going to drop off. Expenses are going to still be there, and you'll start seeing us lose money. So we'll start bleeding down our accounts. And so that's kind of the cycle that we kind of work through. As money starts coming in with tax revenue, I start moving money out of Wood Forest, because in a single day, I can get a really big deposit. I'm trying to maintain that margin of safety and stay below that collateral limit. Is that what you were looking
Yeah,
for?
the same thing for the CDs too, aren't they?
The CDs, again, have the same rules, that $250,000 FDIC. We'll have letters of credit for those two. We'll have $2 million to $5 million invested, so we'll have a letter of credit associated with that specific investment.
Bottom line is, if the banks, not that we're for it, I'm not saying, but if they fail, then we're protected. Our money, we're made whole.
Correct.
Between the FDIC and the letter of credit. Just FYI, again, if that's too much information, I just want to make sure you understand what you're talking about. So, all right. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, monthly reports. Mr. Randy.
Yes, typically I try to make this brief, and everybody says, Randy, you're not brief. But we have primarily a new board, so I'm going to go over, in general, broad things that we're really working on currently. So, first of all, one of our biggest projects has been replacing ambulance fleet. We didn't really start replacing, the last time we bought ambulances was in 2017. Then we had COVID, and so then we started working on replacing ambulances after COVID, and that was very difficult. The supply chain being what it was, ambulance replacement was a real problem. We've tried all kinds of things, which we can talk about at a later time, to make things work, but I think we've finally gotten in a good place. We're now building ambulances through Frazier, which was a provider we used to use. We felt like maybe Frazier was squeezing us a bit, so we went to a different vendor. Didn't work out so well. We're back with Frazier, and Frazier's done a very good job for us up to this point. That being the case, we still have anywhere from an 18-month to 2-year lag time between the time we get a chassis and we get a truck on the road. That's speeding up, but it's still a process. And so currently, our fleet department, I think, does a very good job of taking care of our vehicles. And we've got 15 units that have over 300,000 miles on them. So our goal is to get those units replaced. They're still working okay. We'll get those units replaced and run new units to that level. So we're on schedule with our process, and our goal is to get through the majority of our high mileage trucks through the 2025 calendar year. Then after that point, we'll be at a point where we can start replacing trucks as we need to expand our fleet because of growth in volume.
How many trucks do we have?
We have 54, 53, 50, we have 53.
It's a moving target.
Yeah. One was just rolling up when we got here. So that's number one. I talked a little bit about remounts. We try to remount, and it's going to work, but it's been very, very timely and higher. So eventually we'll get those 4 units back. A remount is when we take a chassis, put a new chassis, and replace the old chassis with a new chassis. We take the box on the back, and we don't just take the box off and put it back because it's a mess after it's been on the truck for about 7 years. And so they rebuild the box, redo the wiring, and they put a like new box on the truck. We can do that for about 3 times, and then after that, the capability of the box is pretty much shot.
It's got to be almost a wash, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's 20 years old at that point. It's a little
Yeah, but
cheaper.
the cost, from a cost standpoint, it's almost a wash to where it used to be like 75,000 when I got on board 50 years ago.
Yeah.
It's what, over 150, 175?
It's still about $75,000 cheaper, but I think our fleet has gotten to the point now where it's so large. The capital investment and the human investment in trying to move all these boxes back and forth, and you're not ever sure of your time frames of getting these things done. I think we're better off to run our trucks into the ground, replace them, and get new trucks. I think that's probably going to be best for us in the future because our fleet is so long.
What is it, about 300,000, 350?
Yeah, 312. Okay, so that's trucks. Alarm. We've worked on restructuring alarm. Alarm is our 911 call center. We've run the same 911 call structure for a long time, and we are very proud of our alarm. We are certified to take care of patients when they call. We can start delivering babies. We can do CPR. We can stop the bleed over the phone as much as people will allow us. But we haven't grown our alarms to the extent that we've grown our fleet. And so we've been working on restructuring our alarms so that we keep the best protocols we can keep, and we've got people available to answer the phones. And so that process we started last summer, and it's an ongoing process, and we'll probably continue to do tweaks on our alarm structure between now and the middle of the year. I think we're going to have a very good alarm product. Shift bid, we've changed shift bid, and Chief Steek and Chief Campbell do a fantastic job of looking at how can we be the most effective with our trucks. Oh, I'm sorry. Shift bid is whenever, once a year, we believe in employee participation. So once a year, we allow all of the people that are in EMS to bid for the next station and the next truck and the next partner they want to work with. And depending on seniority, that changes from year to year. So people get a chance to not always have the same partner or to move to a different location. So we just completed that. But also when we do shift bid, that's when we add new trucks, that's when we add new shifts, that sort of thing. And in the past, we've had shifts that were working 12 hours at night, which is very, very tough on our medics. And as Chief Campbell has said, MCHD, for the most part, is a nighttime community. They go to sleep at night. That's a good thing. So our call volume goes down tremendously. So our big call volume is 10 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock in the evening. So we've added more 12-hour shifts for day shifts, and we're having our 24-hour shifts handling most of the calls at night. Is that correct, Chief? Okay.
It's not stealing your thunder again.
Yeah, he can fill in the gaps. The next thing I'm doing, I'm really going to steal this thunder, so I'm going to take this quietly. I'm very, very excited because we do a really good job, I think, of reviewing quality and looking at how can we practically do a better job taking care of very sick patients. And one of the things that we're doing, we just ordered new equipment where you put a tube down someone's throat who's not breathing. That's a very dangerous procedure to do. And so we practice and practice on that. Well, the equipment that we had is now at end of life, and we can't get it replaced. So we've gotten new equipment, and what we've been able to do is get the same equipment that makes it easier to do that. It has a light that goes, shows you what you're doing. It also has a video, so we can video each time that we put a tube down someone's throat, and we can look to see what was the problems, if any, that were involved. And we can use this for teaching, we can use this for training, and we can use it for quality review. So for really the same price as what we've been doing in the past, now we're going to be able to do a lot more quality and teaching and training. So I'm very excited about that. I think that's money well spent. I've also talked about we're redoing our purchasing department. In the past, most of our purchasing took place by departments working on a project, getting things to purchase, and then we took it to accounting and purchasing, and we bought it. And there's a lot of start and stops with that. We're getting a new accounting software package that's going into effect this year. And part of that software package is going to be a purchasing package. So we're taking a good look at the different ways that we purchase things to make sure that we've got not so many snags in each department when we purchase. So, we purchase with things called an RFP, which is a request for pricing for big capital projects. We're going to try to make that a little bit more packaged. We also buy services that are very unique. If we need to get something built, a porch built onto a house or whatever, there are rules now that we have to adhere to that make that very difficult. So we're working on a process to make that work clean. Then we buy services, and then we buy goods. So we're looking at all 4 of those avenues and making sure that we stay consistent in all the things that we purchase, but we do what's most effective for the type of purchase that we make. And the reason we want to do that is because when we buy this accounting software and we start implementing it, we want to have a plan for what our purchasing processes are going to be so that we don't have to start and stop once we get the accounting software. Hopefully that will work out very well. I'm also going to steal some of Brett's more thunder. We're also getting a new billing package. Our accounting software is over 20 years old, and so is our billing software. And our billing software is obsolete. And so we're getting a new billing package, and that's going to make our billing a lot more efficient. I think it's going to help our collections. The billing package was supposed to start in the middle of February, but we're having lawyers from 3 different groups trying to coordinate IT information. That's been quite a job. And they want 2 more weeks to make sure that they've got this coordination right before they implement it. So we'll be starting our billing software conversion beginning of March. Okay. Things we want to work on the next 90 days. Frazier, our units, that's a big deal. Medics, recruiting, that's a big deal. Laryngoscopes, that's the thing that puts the tube down your throat when you can't breathe. It's important to breathe. Our billing software and our accounting software, our purchasing. And we have a new station, Station 46. This is the fire station that we bought on 1486, is that 2854, out by the lake. That's the old Conroe Fire Department station. They moved next door. We bought the station. It was a good deal. When we bought the station, there had to be some renovations done to it because when it was built, the county really kind of wasn't really involved in the building process. Now we have to bring things up to code. And so we've been working with the county on that. As soon as we get things brought up to code, and Melissa can talk more about this, we'll be moving into that station. The last thing I want to do is off my agenda, but I wanted to talk about this because it's come up, and I didn't realize it was going to be such a big deal. We've had a program called Pulse Point that we enacted about 4 years ago. And Pulse Point seemed like it was a good idea. What it is, it's a program that people can get an app, and if there's a cardiac arrest that happens in your area, it will beep you, letting you know the general location of that cardiac arrest, so you can go over and you can do CPR for patients. Well, our experience has been that we really haven't had a lot of community participation. There's a lot of people interested in Pulse Point, but we're not getting a lot of community participation helping us with CPR. Plus, we have our medics, our medics in alarm, they tell people how to do CPR. So I've got a little note that we sent out because we had several people requesting, why are you getting rid of Pulse Point? So this is the information that we sent. Thank you for your inquiry about Pulse Point mobile application. MCHD is no longer has an agreement with Pulse Point. MCHD has been a Pulse Point user for the past 4 years. And over that time, MCHD continues to monitor the cost and value of our software platform to ensure that we're being financially responsible and meeting our organizational mission. Today, there are approximately 10,000 Pulse Point users registered in Montgomery County. The monthly report shows that only about 50% of those users are active on a monthly basis. That means they touch their app at least once monthly. The purpose of Pulse Point is to alert bystanders of cardiac arrest in a public place in hopes that the bystander will respond and start CPR. In our 4 years of using Pulse Point, there's been very low engagement from bystander alerts translating into CPR. For example, in December of 2024, 13 alerts for a cardiac arrest in public places. 4 Pulse Point activations were sent, and no bystander CPR was initiated as a result of these alerts. However, at MCHD, our dispatchers are highly trained and accredited by the International Academies of Emergency Dispatchers, and we utilize emergency medical dispatch. This means that on every cardiac arrest, our dispatchers give CPR instructions over the phone so that early CPR can be given to patients prior to the arrival of first responders. Pulse Point is not designed to allow the community to, quote, see what is going on with emergency responses in the county. This creates a safety and privacy risk for our patients and responders. As we move forward, Pulse Point will remain paused and we will continue to evaluate the future cost or benefit of this application. Any questions to my report? Thank you. Chief?
I usually get to just say what he said when I get my report because he does such a good job. No, in all seriousness, we spent a lot of time on our reports this month. So for EMS, we have multiple divisions. We have quality, we have DCS, we have operations, and those chiefs that go over those specific departments, we get together and we submit kind of our highlights of the month for you. So generally, this report is anywhere from 2 to 4 pages long. January is my favorite board book report because we get to show all the year-end data for 2024, so you can see our performance from the year before. And I wanted to highlight a couple things that you'll see on the reports each month. Normally, the first bullet point you'll see is our customer service scores for the EMS survey team. So EMS survey team is a third party, and they send 4,000 patient satisfaction surveys out to our patients a month. We get about 400 of those returned. They go out via mail or text message. And really, when we did a board orientation, one of my favorite bullet points to share about MCHD is really for 10 consecutive years, we've been highly ranked in the United States for customer service. And I think that really lends to our culture and how we want to treat our patients. We can teach medicine all day long, but what's inside of here is so important in how we manage our patients and how we care for their families day to day is important. So you'll see those scores, usually the first bullet point every month. Very proud of where we continue to be with customer service. It shows consistency over a long period of time. The next bullet point in the big graph that's in the EMS report is call volume trends really for the last 10 years. And for the 8 out of the last 10 years, it's like we're playing a video game. It's like new record, new high score, new record. We're busier and busier every year. There were 2 years where we didn't really set a record in call volume, and those are asterisks by COVID call volume. But other than that, last year about 93,000 total responses, and we transported just under 54,000 patients to the hospital. So I will, yes, sir. We transported 6% more patients last year compared to the previous year, and you can see that that's just a trend that's continuing to go up. That's what we're trying to chase operationally by building trucks and hiring people is to keep up with the call volume. There are 3 ways we track the data that you can see in the dispatch incident review. A response is how many units will get dispatched to a call. So for example, if there's a major car accident on I-45, we may send 3 ambulances. That's 3 responses. 2 may get canceled en route and 1 will make C. That's 1 incident. And then we'll transport likely 1 patient out of that. So there's really 3 different data points depending on the nature of the call. Another bullet point, upstairs, really starting last week, is a new employee orientation program, which we refer to as NEOP. So when we hire new EMTs and paramedics, that's their onboarding process. It's about 2.5 weeks in the office, and then they go on the ambulance. It's been field time training with the preceptor to prepare them to be in their new roles. So this class has 24 EMTs and 6 paramedics. Again, that's us trying to continue to prepare for growth as we work through this calendar year and start planning what fiscal year 26 looks like. So having those new folks onboarded now really plays a big impact for where we want to be in the future. And then last, we'll spend a little bit of time talking about Winter Storm Enzo. I think Mr. Johnson was doing a good job of keeping you updated with what we were updating you on how we were making plans for the storm. So we activated COOP, is what we call it. COOP is continuity of operations. So we're an essential service, we have to have crews at work, and we have to be able to respond to calls, we don't really get to stop that. So the way that we prepare for that generally is we like to bring, so right now, let's say today there are 34 trucks in service. We try to bring a whole nother shift in the night before, and all the stations have extra beds, and we prepare so that we don't want our crews having to drive on flooded roads or frozen roads to try to get to work. We'd rather bring them in before the event happens so that they can get some rest, get to work, and then we have 2 shifts to manage the event for the duration. So we activated our coup plan. Fortunately, everybody stayed home and enjoyed a perfect Texas winter, 24 hours of pictures and snowballs and snowmen, and then it was 60 degrees the next day, and our call volume was actually much lower than it would be on a normal day for about 2 consecutive days. I'm happy to add to this report, answer any questions, and amend it how you guys see fit in the future. Other than that, happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, all right. Leslie, you're up.
Good afternoon. You have my report before you. I'd like to take a minute to introduce my managers that are in the room. They're very close to this report. They do all the work. And so if you would stand up, Misty Willingham. She is our PIO. She does our public information officer work and recruiting. And videos. Calvin Hans over IT. He also supports the CAD department, the computer aided dispatch folks. Sean Kenners, also in IT. She does our Laserfish, our electronic business processes. Justin Evans was here a minute ago, and now he's out. And his project manager, Caitlin Booth, who couldn't stand up. She monitors and makes sure he stays on track with projects for both fleet and radio. So, now for my report. Our facilities department is working on a number of stations plus the routine work. We've gone out to bid for an architect to manage the Station 46, which is at 13956, 2854. And like what it says in your board report, with the wrong address, so I have the right address for next month and moving forward. They went out to RFP to have an architect work on it, and they covered ambulance parking to complete it, to get all the stuff we needed for permitting, drawings, everything we needed to complete these stations. Those 2 projects will go out to RFP in February with a completion date projected on the covered ambulance structure, which needs to be electrical, at the end of April, and the station itself on 46 on 5854 be complete the station at the end of December. He has a mobile home on that site that Mchd owns. It is set up and ready to house a 12-hour shift from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. We can't stay overnight. If we stayed overnight, we would have to Springsburg the station, the mobile home. So, in order to move into that the mobile home, we're going to have one of the bays ready, which means the electrical has to be ready to charge it. And there's a drainage that needs to be put in front of those bays. So that's the first 2 projects the architect and the contractor are going to work on to make that where we can move into that station. Those medics are currently housed at the old Station 46, which is in the Lake Conroe Fire in Blue Forest. They're outgrowing that station and have plans over the next 2 years to expand it. But by us moving out, that may lengthen the time they have. So we'll no longer be leasing there, we'll have that station. That station can hold 2 ambulances and a Tahoe once complete. Gives us good north, south, east, west direction, the 2854 station, and thinks it'll be great for our growth in this county.
Also, Chief McKeston, who's over that particular fire department, is more than willing for us to come back into the existing station that we're in now in the forest after they expanded it. They'll leave a pad for us to use to have the department.
As well as post there or stop there anytime we need to. We're always welcome. The next 2 items under facilities, the chiller number 2 and the automation system, kind of go hand in hand. So right now they're working on getting the building automation system, which controls building-wide systems such as HVAC and lighting. All the wiring and things are being put in place now. It's about a 10-week project, which should end with our chiller that was ordered, which is a 26-week lead time. due here in March. Hopefully it'll be on time and be able to be installed and both be completed by the end of April. Next month, I'll be adding two other new stations that are coming online. Station 16, which is on Calvary Road, and the rebuild of Woodland Station 24, which, I right from West Street, you drive by it every day.
It's on the parking lot, but it's,
The parking lot in the back?
yeah, it's actually in the parking lot.
Right,
It's in the entryway to the parking lot. So I'll bring that
They built a big
information.
parking lot and they only use a fraction of it, so that they sold part of it to the township, and we're participating with the township to build a fire station. Because the one that's around the corner on what is it, Ranch Crossing, has a structural problem, so.
Yeah, it's right off of Ash Lane, it's off of Ash Lane and,
Yeah.
of course, I'm sorry, Ash Lane and Withers.
Right there by the ninth grade high school campus.
So they've been delayed in pouring the slab due to the weather. They have to do it above 46 degrees for 4 days consecutively after the pour, and so they've been delayed.
Never thought that'd be a
that
problem.
process. Never, they didn't think so either, so. Then the radio. Our radio department has been working on deploying LTE capable portable radios to the crews. Those radios allow for data transmissions via radio waves that allows them without Wi-Fi to be able to transmit EKGs to the hospitals. So they've gotten that rolled out. They also participate in our visits to Fraser at 85% and 100% completion of the ambulances to ensure that inspections are done to ensure antenna lines, cabling, placement of antennas, Ethernet cable placements, quality, quantity, and testing of power specifications so that ensure once they roll out of Fraser, they meet what the specs are for those units. They've also done that with ours that are at serves in the Tyler region. For IT, computer-aided dispatch and Laserfish, the IT team is auditing our email system to ensure that best practices of securities are being applied. We're at high risk being a healthcare and a government agency of cyber attacks. They work continuously on that. The CAD, computer automated dispatch, and IT teams are updating applications with new components in the CAD system installed last year to increase security. My font's too small. Public health. The public health district, as you know, is funded by grants. The grants do not meet the full payment of what it costs to run the public health district. It's about a $600,000 difference, shortfall between the grants and what it costs to run them. The public health district entered into a contract with the county to pay that difference starting in October of '24. There was a budgeting snafu there. They did not budget the amount to cover that shortfall. They proposed ARPA funds to cover that. We don't meet the criteria to receive those ARPA funds for that. So it was proposed that Mchd would use their leftover waiver funds, which by contract is in the emergency contingency fund. It was to be held at $2.5 million. We recommended that it leak down to $1.9 million, and next year they continue with the contract to pay the $600,000. Brad and I will be at those hearings to ensure that that is placed in the budget. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And as Jane said, if there's anything you want to see different, more information, less information, please don't hesitate to ask.
ARPA is also known, AKA COVID fund.
COVID funding. America's Recovery Something Act.
Yeah, I think I put something in there. Okay.
In addition, we are watching closely with the proposal to stop federal funding through grants and stuff that's been placed out there, because that would stop all funds coming to public health.
Primarily, the public service health district is the responsibility of the county, not the hospital. They contracted with us many moons ago.
2010.
2010 at $90,000 a year they would pay us. We were able to get 1115 waiver money and use that money to help fund the difference. The Biden administration, the only thing I think they cut during this whole time was, that's a political statement, sorry. They cut.
They ended that funding.
They eliminated that funding. At that point, we entered into negotiations with the county to do one of several things. One of them was for us to continue to run it, but you're going to pay for it. Or, here, you can have it back. And it almost got to the point we said, here, you can have it back, but, you know, we worked through the difficulties there, and so we're in the contract was cut, and now we're in the process of managing it for the next couple of years. Then I believe we take it on as, but they continue to fund it, we can give it back to them still at any time.
Yeah.
Is that some of
Yeah,
that?
to be clear, yes, that's a good quick summary. To be clear, we have a public health board that's responsible for public health. The hospital district's responsible for the management of public health. Public health board will continue in existence until the end of September of this year. And then that board will, they want to go away. And when we start fiscal year 2026, which starts in October 2025, the county will need to begin paying us $50,000 a month for the offset between the grants that we get and what it costs to run public health.
Which is a new fiscal year.
Yeah. And we have a, I guess, a gun to the head clause, for lack of a better word. The county can take public health back at any time for any reason with a 120-day notice, or we can give public health to the county at any time with a 120-day notice. Also, next year, in fiscal year 2026, public health will not be a public health district any longer. The board will go away, the district will go away. Public health, if MCHD is going to continue to manage it, will become a department of MCHD. But it's still the responsibility of the county, so.
Kind of the best of both worlds.
That's something to really pay attention to, because we're gonna have to start moving grants over into MCHD's name over the next months and years. And so with this new board, if that's something that maybe you think would better reside in the county and we don't want to take the risk of taking on that, now's the time to start talking about that, so we can give notice and not make those grants change twice, because it is quite a cumbersome process once we roll them over.
I have a quick question. The hearings that that the county's going to have for the budget, do you or Mr. Allen have any idea when this might be scheduled?
Usually in June, right? Right.
It'll be in June or July.
Okay.
So it's a
Yeah, we just
workshop.
want to make sure this time they don't get to put it in.
Yeah, when you find out, I'd like to know. I'd like to attend if I can.
Absolutely.
Okay, Addie.
My manager I didn't introduce, but she speaks for herself.
You feel slighted? You forgot one.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Annie Moronkaji, and I work with the Healthcare Assistance Program. You have a copy of our report in front of you, but just a quick summary of how HCAP is structured. We kind of flowed into how our report is broken up. We have 4 teams within HCAP, and they have different functionalities. So we have our eligibility team, and they're responsible for reviewing applications and determining eligibility. And we have our case management team. We have 2 case managers who work closely with our pharmacy representative, and they're responsible, the pharmacy rep is responsible for triage of medications. Again, we are not clinicians, so we're not determining what a client on our program should take, but since they only have, we only cover 3 medications a month, what they're trying to triage is how can we cover the most expensive one and what can they get at a discount. And then we have our case managers. We have to make sure that our clients are able to see low-cost providers or quality providers, and just navigate them through the healthcare system, because it can get a little confusing, even for us it is. So having them to help and communicate with providers and just help them get the services they need is very crucial. And so then we also have our bill pay team. In 2019, we took this on processing and adjudicating provider claims. So that's been very interesting. It's created a better relationship for us and our providers. So those are the 4 teams. And so when you look at our report, what we do each month is, or for reporting months, is just to extract what's specific to each team, just like a snippet of their activities of what they're doing. And if we have any information that's more general to the whole team, I include that under the program updates. And so you will see that. So that's one of the, that's how the report is structured. And so usually I try to highlight our numbers. If nothing's changed, really, I highlight our numbers because that gives us a pulse of what's going on with HCAP. It helps us to determine if we need to ramp up outreach activities, if we need to focus more on certain areas of the county. And so we kind of just adjust based on the influx and volume that we have. And so for the month of December, which is the reporting month for this report, the board report, we had 327 clients on the program, and we processed 143 applications. So just like I said, if there's anything you would like to see, let us know. We'll adjust accordingly. But if you have any questions, and Ms. Inman, I look forward to working with you. But if anyone has any questions, please let us know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So just do a brief update for accounting and billing. I do want to introduce Shannon Wilden. She's our controller for accounting. Definitely one of our key players. And so as Randy mentioned, we are going through an accounting software conversion, so converting to Oracle. So we're doing regular calls, working through that, defining parameters of the data, anything that's going to change this system compared to the next. Next little milestone is by the end of this week, we expect the chart of accounts to be in place in the new system. We'll start with working on moving data over and then verifying data is actually correct. That what it says is an income statement from 2 years ago is still an income statement from 2 years ago. We're also in the middle of audit, so field work is going on. So they're making requests, data is being provided, and they're doing testing on that data. We'll bring you a report, the audit report at the March board meeting, and so the auditor will present at that time. And so I think Shannon will tell you it's always project season, but I'm going to say right now it's project season. So 1099s were just issued to vendors. It's tax season, right? So W-2s have been issued electronically to employees. It's time to do our ambulance services supplemental payment project cost report. You've heard the term 1115 waiver. This is a component of the 1115 waiver. It allows us to get some reimbursement for some of the charity care we provided over the last year. So that submission is due by March 31st, and then we would expect reimbursement by around September 30th, October 1st, right in that range.
And that's ranged over the years.
It has had a pretty extreme range. I think the most we got was around $6 million.
Yeah, that was years ago.
And currently, last year was $1,074,000.
800 one year, wasn't
It may have been, they've changed the parameters.
it? Now
One
they
thing
go
that
to hospitals.
I think that's the tobacco settlement.
We've kind of joked that the uncompensated care program has basically been an airplane constructed in flight. It's kind of constantly changing.
Yeah. And we never know what we're going to get till we get it.
Not truly correct, that's correct. And then we're also working on our tobacco settlement submission. And so years ago, the district participated in a class action lawsuit. An amount was awarded to the state of Texas. We participated in that. So each year they allocate, based on your expenses and services provided, an amount to us. And so typically we budget about $800,000 for that. Last year we got a little bit more. We got almost $900,000. Capital asset inventory will be undergoing that process over the next month, a little over a month. But that request will be going out to managers this week to kind of lay their eyes on assets, make sure we still have them, we know where they are, they're in good shape. And then it's also time for our property and casualty insurance renewal. We have kind of a strange year it starts April 17th. So typically you think January 1st or some other first of the month. Ours starts April 17th. There's a long story behind that, but we're choosing not to change it because it's actually pretty good timing because it's before hurricane season, and there's been some time since the last hurricane season, so typically that helps us with rates, is the idea. But that will include auto insurance, property, crime, general liability, cyber insurance, workers' comp, directors and officers, and employment practices. So we'll bring that to you by the March meeting to then get that all in place by the middle of April. For billing, one of the things that we
How long
look
ago
at.
did we bid that out? Was this the third year?
So the broker was bid out,
Was it 3 years ago?
yes, for 3 years before that, in that range. So for billing, we look at a number of metrics, but one of the key metrics we look at, and is what we look at home, like, how much money are we bringing home? What are the collections? And so in November, collections were 2.3 million, and we can compare that to a year ago in November when there were 1.9 million, so 0.4 million, $400,000 greater. And then in December, they were 2.4 million. The previous December, they were 2.2. And so that goes along with the growth that we see in the county and the growth in our responses, incidents, whatever we're measuring. And then also, Randy mentioned we are changing billing systems. It's been in place for a long time. The new system is Image Trend Billing Bridge. It has been a long road. It is going to be a big improvement once we get it in place. As Randy mentioned, we're working with 3 sets of lawyers to get what we call our demographic, and it also finds insurance, right? So if you've got patient A, do they have insurance? Where is that insurance? So it basically kind of, at the touch of a button, we can get that information at our fingertips. And what that helps us do is bill the right entity, whether that's the patient or a third-party payer, Medicare, Medicaid, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we know where the patient lives. Like, we've got the right patient and we've got the right address. So when we send a bill out, we actually get a response, or it improves our chance of getting a response and payment, rather than getting return mail to find out it's sent to the wrong place, it's the wrong payer, and drags out the process. So very important to us. I think that's about it, but I'm happy to try to address any questions you might have. Thank you.
Okay, just from the board's information, what we generally do is on these reports, we send these out, as you all got them. We expect the board members to read them and to ask questions. So this time, since it's a new board and our first meeting, they went into a little more explanation and a little longer than we normally go. But normally they're going to get up there. They might point 1, maybe 2 things that they want to point out real quickly, and then ask you if you have any questions. So it is imperative that you take time to read the board book before, so you can ask questions. Of course, you're free to ask about anything. There's no secrets here. It's public information, so the public can read it, but just give you that. So we went a little bit longer this time than we normally do, but the board's normal MO on this is to say, okay, Randy will say, okay, I've presented my report, is there any questions? So you might have 1 or 2 things he points out, but we went into more explanation this time, just so you guys can start to understand the process and learn.
And I'll also say that the MCHD is, it has a lot of parts. We're like a string of several small companies. We build towers, we build buildings, we buy ambulances, we do medicine, we do healthcare assistance for people who can't afford their healthcare. We do public health. We work in first responders. We work. So there's a lot of parts, and don't worry about asking us questions or having us explain things. It's really very easy.
Well, I've been on the board 10 years, and Bob longer than that, all told, and I'm still learning things, so anyway, so that's weird. Anyway, we'll move on. Ms. Williams, the next item, teacher.
We'll now hear from the Human Resources Department.
Good afternoon. Before you have the fourth quarter turnover report. Oh, my name is Emily Fitzgerald, and I'm the Human Resources Manager.
She works for me, and I believe I didn't introduce our report, so I apologize.
I want to make an apology. For 2024, that fourth quarter, that yellow box, it is actually 15, not 20. I made a mistake on that. And so for 2024, we had 75 employees leave our organization. 15 in the fourth quarter, which put us at 17.3% annualized for the year. Typically, EMS average nationally is 25 to 35%. Our goal personally for Mchd is to stay around 15% or less. When we break those 75 employees down, annualized it was 39.2% for the alarm department, 16.4% for the field, and 16.2% for non-field. The EMT cohort program, over the last year, we've been trying to separate those employees out. So the EMT cohort program is what we started several years ago. We partnered with one of the local colleges to kind of backfill for our paramedic positions. And so we hire EMTs. They work for us for about 6 months, and then they are put into the paramedic program while also working on the ambulance. In return, after they complete their paramedic program, they give us 3 years of service at minimum. So in 2024, 16 EMTs in the cohort program left Mchd, and that attributes to 34% of the overall field turnover.
But that's not in these normal turnover numbers.
Yes, yes, sir, it is.
So that's why they're higher than normal.
Yes.
Okay.
Of those 15 that left in the fourth quarter, 3 were involuntary and 12 were voluntary. And the voluntary reasons for those 12, 1 non-field retired, 2 field and 2 non-field were personal reasons. So that's whether they had something family-related going on, something they really didn't want to speak to, just their life decisions. 1 adjunct faculty member could no longer teach. So we do have some staff that teach CPR classes when needed to backfill for those that can't. Otherwise, the field medics teach. 2 non-field took another job opportunity, and then 4 field took other paramedic jobs. 1 at Sci-Fair, 1 at ESD 11, and 2 preferred not to say. So this is current turnover workforce by years of service, the dark gray, by current workforce by years of service, the light gray. You can see that most of our employees and turnover are within the first 5 years. I typically say that's because that's when they're making that decision, whether it's in the first 6 months or year, they decide if they're going to stay or not. And then once they're closer to that 5 years, that's actually vesting for our retirement program. So they typically stay to at least hit that vesting period. I would like to say that those 20 plus years, those six employees that left the organization, all 6 retired.
One of them been here 40 years, right?
Yeah, 2 of them. Oh, yes, no, right. Jack Maddox, 40 years, and Eric Berliner, 30.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I don't know how to do it.
Any questions?
I'll add a couple of things to the report. One of the things that we do that's different than, we'll do a couple things that's different than most other organizations. For the most part, we compare ourselves to ourselves. We set a benchmark, and then we try to improve on that. Also, for turnover, if you come to work for us one day and you leave, we count that as a turnover. Other companies, they give you 90 days, 180 days because you built your orientation. We don't. And we got somebody who left us last year in the cohort. They left. They're hired here again, so if they leave again this year, they'll count turnover twice. So, but I think that's the fair way to do it. We pick them, whether we picked well, whether they chose well. We want to look specifically at what our numbers are. And EMTs, I'll say this as well. Paramedics, when you're a paramedic, you've gone through at least 2 years of schooling, if not more. When you're an EMT, you've gone through 1 semester of school, so there's a big difference there. And usually paramedics are older, have more life experience when they start. EMTs, they may have taken EMT school in high school. So they can be very young. It's maybe their first experience. And so we've had a lot of work making sure that we get our EMTs aligned with work process. So I think that will continue to be the case as we continue through this journey.
Okay, Ms. Walker, you got item number 11.
So we'll consider an act on contribution payment number 1 for the Woodlands Fire Station. The replacement station is located at 8005 Macbeth Way, in Woodlands. Mchd will have a 1,400 square foot apartment. Within that station consisting of day room, kitchenette, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, EMS storage room, 4 drive-through, and all the details are there. Beautiful station here. So first payment is actually due of $750,000 with 2 remaining payments of around $600 and some thousand due in 2026 and 1 due in 2027.
This is the new station in the back of Woodland?
Yes,
Yes.
I did have the address, I just didn't have it on the piece of paper.
Yeah.
And this is a budgeted item, and it is within budget.
So that's in the form of a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to item number 12, which is Mr. Walker.
Yes. Consider an act on annual maintenance and software renewal for Central Square Ambulance and Fire. This is the computer-aided dispatch system.
Calvin's here to speak about it, if y'all would like to hear it.
All right, Bob, second. Any questions?
I'll just give you some history. Back in 2009, the Woodlands Fire Dispatch and Montgomery County Hospital District Dispatch needed to look at a new CAD program to start having some synergy and coordination of fire trucks, since we're on separate CADs at that time, or separate dispatch programs. It's computer-aided dispatch. And Ms. Bagley is part of some of those demos that we did. And we ended up signing an interlocal with the township where we would split the cost of the fire EMS dispatch program, where MCHD is responsible for 56.7% of the cost of the original contract from 2009, and fire comm or fire dispatch is responsible for 43.3%. So we've been running this CAD. We went live about 2011, and we are in a contracted years to provide support for CAD, where you get technical support and the upgrades that come out with all the new features. So at the cost of about $295,000, MCHC would be responsible for about $167,000, and the township is responsible for $127,883. It's all under budget, and just note that Central Square does have an escalator of 5% there. It can definitely increase. Are there any questions?
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 13, which will be
Consider act on healthcare assistance program claims from non-Medicaid 1115 waiver providers.
second. Is there a second? Aye. Okay, second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Carries. Number 14.
Consider an act on ratification of voluntary contributions to the Medicaid 1115 waiver program of healthcare assistance program claims.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that's item number 14. Number 15.
Consider an act on ratification of contract with additional network provider for indigent care.
Yes, we added.
Yeah, we got a second. You want to address
We're
that?
adding, there's a pulmonologist in Tom Hall that will be added to our roster to take care of patients. He's already been taking care of patients, and he is now will be under contract to refer others to as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Number 16. That's the CFO report. Mr. Allen, that's you.
Yes.
Yes, sir. And so the board does have my report. I'm just hit some of the high points. In terms of cash investments at the end of December, there were $44,970,000. That's compared to $45,756,000 the previous December, so down $786,000, and that is per plan.
Calvin.
Okay. With regard to the income statement, looking year to date, revenue over expenses are exceeding what was planned by $667,000. We look up at revenue. Revenue for tax is $1,607,000 less than expected through December. We've collected about 93.5% of the year to date at that point. Tax revenue comes in, it really comes in big in December and January. The way we budget it is we look at the previous 3 years, kind of a rolling average of how much of that year's budget did we get each month, and so that provides our estimate of how much we would receive in the current year. So a little bit behind through December, 6.5%, and I will say that through January today, we've collected 75% of the annual budget. But we're still behind for January. We're a little bit better than 50% for January. The January 31st is that magic date when, after that, penalties and interest started occurring. So we're expecting towards the end of this week to really start to see some pretty significant deposits. So we're not worried about truly being behind at this point.
Collect what, about 99%?
After March, we'll probably be around 96% collected.
96.
EMS net revenue is a little less than expected, $370,000. We're running a little bit low compared to budget in terms of our runs per day. We're about 3.8 runs per day less than expected. We expected 5.6% growth on the year, and so we still may get there. It's just currently we're a little bit less than expected. And then other revenue is $214,000 more than expected. Payroll is $619,000 less than expected currently. We'll see that fluctuate throughout the year. Operating expenses, $1,790,000 less than expected. That we're going to pretty much attribute to just timing. We do our best to predict and project when we'll spend money, but it just doesn't always line up that way. Indigent care is actually exactly on budget at the moment, so pretty neat there. Overall operating expenses are $2.4 million less than expected. Capital is also year to date just $21,000 less than expected. So again, overall ahead of where we expect to be at this point, with revenue over expenses $667,000 better than planned. We'll be happy to try to address any questions, anything I don't know, we'll get the answers.
Shirley, item number 17.
All righty. Presentation of the budget timeline. We have a handy little handout. Mr. Allen, you want to comment on it?
Yes, sir. So you can see that the budget process is pretty lengthy. Starting in February, here we show it going through August. It actually go on into September. Some of the deadlines at the end there, we won't know until we get information from the tax office. But you can see budget templates going out, capital coordination, executive review, all those things kind of happening above the line, and then our regular meetings below the line. The one that I really would like to key in on for you guys is in July 23rd. We'll have a couple of days of public hearings, and we'll go through, each manager will present and defend their budget line by line, and so that's your opportunity to see the true details, nuts and bolts of the budget, ask questions, and really understand what's happening there.
Something different this year is public health will take part in that as well, so each grant will be gone through, what they're allowed to do on those, what the restrictions are, what the matches, all the components of each grant will be reviewed, so it might be a little longer than previous meetings have been.
Good point. point. Thank you, Melissa.
Also of note, before we actually do a presentation to the board, we will have gone through the budget presentation with our individual department heads 2 or 3 times. So we'll be giving you what we think is our best prediction of what we think we need next year. You guys can give us good feedback.
Timeline number 18.
Yes, consider an act on changes to the authorized reps for the text pool account.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries. Number 19.
Consider an act on changes to the authorized reps for the Techstar account.
You have a second? Second on that, so all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Pass. Number 20.
Yes, consider an act upon recommendation for amendment to the budget for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2025. Mr. Allen, you want to comment?
Yes, sir. So the budget amendment is requesting an increase in expenses of $505,000. It's broken down into 2 pieces. The first being a reclass of $2,777 from the facilities department to the radio department for a particular PO, 74057. And then where the difference in the increase in the budget comes from is the compensation budget. So in alarm, it was originally budgeted for 32 personnel, 32 people, and that is increasing to 36 based on Randy's explanation earlier. 2 of the original 32 are part of our quality initiative to make sure the right things are happening the right way. Those people are actually moving out of the alarm department and into the quality department. They'll still be responsible for alarm, but they'll be answering and managed through the quality department. So truly an increase of 6 people within the alarm department in this restructure.
That's a change. We had it up and then we lost it, reduced the alarm a couple of years ago, right?
Yes,
And now we're adding more.
we are. The volume is high. FMLA is taking a big hit, and we need to get people trained up and we need to reduce our turnover. That's creating a big problem for us. So,
Yeah, we have pretty high turnover in alarm.
yeah, it's almost 40%. But it's a small part of it. But we have a tradition like that. We had it 2 years ago, we had it again, so we're working on improving our alarm program. We can't call them and get them replaced and there's no point in having the trucks.
Was there a second on that? Excuse
Yeah,
me.
yeah. You have a question?
Donna? Did you have?
Yes, she's here. All in favor? Aye. All right, that's number 21, Mr. Sherwood.
Yeah, consider an act on payment of district invoices. The total invoices, $7,657,532.71.
Second, so you want to kind of hit the high spot?
Sure. So on an average monthly basis, we'd expect this to be about $3.4 million. Multiply that by 2, it'd be about 6.8. We're at 7.6, so an average, right, there's high months or low months. This is one of the higher months. There are a number of annual expenditures listed here. Basically renewals, maintenance agreements, etc. So Ace Tech, Bradshaw Consulting for Marvelous, annual service agreement for facilities, etc. Then we've also got some quarterly payments, so the appraisal district, which is $115,000, and our Texas Mutual workers' compensation is also paid quarterly. That's $130,000. And we also had some pretty significant capital this time. The video laryngoscopes, which we heard about earlier, were $180,000. The Lake Conroe Tower went into service, and so that equipment there was paid for. That was $855,000. And then we did receive 4 ambulances for $1,138,000.
Questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Number 22.
Consider an act on salvage and surplus, accept the report.
call into light. So, Nancy, okay, Bob seconds. All right, all in favor? Number 23.
Consider an act on Secretary's report, minutes from the December 10th, 2024 regular Board of Directors meeting and January 7th special board meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, that carries. All right. Donna, for the executive session, can I read off of here? Is there?
You can read off there, yes.
All right. Okay, the board is now going to convene into executive session pursuant to Texas Open Meetings Act to deliberate a closed session on the following matters authorized under the Texas Open Meetings Act. Pursuant to Section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code for deliberations about real property and Section 551.071 to receive legal advice both regarding the use of district facilities by third-party groups. Persuaded to Section 551.072 of the Texas Government Code for deliberations about real estate property and under Section 551.071 to receive legal advice both regarding the lease of real property by Park Place Professional Buildings LLC for property located at 100 Medical Center Boulevard, Conroe, Texas 77304. And C, persuaded to Section 551.074 to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline, and dismissal of public officer or employee. So we're going to adjourn at 5:36. Where's out here reminding me exactly? The land associated with 100 Medical Center Boulevard. Do I have a second? I have a second. Is it all in favor? Aye. No opposed? All right, the motion carries. If I hear no arguments, we will now adjourn the regular session meeting of the Montgomery County Hospital meeting. It is now 6:52 still.